Now you're going to be in the UK for a whole series of live events,
Yes.
which are, conversations on stage, sit downs, if you will, with the audience. I'm super excited you're doing this. And it sounds like a lot of people really want to come and hear you live and do this. What can people expect? Are you surprised by so much interest and excitement over this? And is it optimistic to you that people still crave a real good sit down?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been doing this a long time now. One of the benefits of being here in the United Kingdom is that I can talk about things I haven't talked about in the United States. Some personal things, family matters, and things in the mob life that people don't understand. There's a lot of nuances, there's a lot of things that people don't understand that I haven't spoken about before. But I'm ready to talk about that here. So they're going to hear some things about the life that have not been revealed. Also, you don't have really a mafia presence here. So people don't really know what the life is all about. Well, they're going to get to know it. And look, I interacted with John Gotti, I interact with Tony Salerno, Fat Tony, the Genovese family, the Chin, I'm sure you know that name. I interacted with all of these guys, and people want to know about that, nuances about their lives, about the business part of it. So they're going to hear it all. We have some very good hosts coming up that I think people are going to enjoy. We're going to have banter on the stage. We're going to do a Q&A. And I tell people, you can ask me anything that you want. I've been asked everything under the sun. You won't offend me. And I'll answer. I'll answer everything I could. So we're doing a lot of that. I'm very excited. My hosts are doing a tremendous job. Most of them are dinner events. And they have so many activities planned throughout the evening. We'll do a meet and greet. I'll be signing some books. We have some memorabilia we're going to be giving away. I think it's going to be a really great time. And I've always been welcomed very warmly by everybody in the United Kingdom. I love the people here. And we're going up and down. We're going to Scotland, we're going to Wales. We're doing, I think, 25 cities. So it's going to be a blast. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm coming to your first event here in London.
July 2nd.
Yeah, Grosvenor Hotel is going to be amazing. I can't wait. And it just shows that people want to hear this from you. And also, you'll say certain things on British soil that you won't feel comfortable saying in New York City or Los Angeles.
Yes.
And maybe we'll get into some of that nuance later, but you just feel more comfortable talking about certain things in certain places.
Yes.
Right. And that's a carryover maybe to the old mafia days.
Yeah, I feel like, I can say things here that I wouldn't say at home.
Right. I want to ask you a few questions about, how you finally ended that life and kind of what happened after that. But I have to ask you about a figure that seems to keep coming up in your life. And you mentioned a bunch of the names like Gotti, et cetera, and that would be Sammy the Bull. You two have had a couple sit-downs orchestrated in different ways, and I know Patrick Bet-David, he's been here, good friend. You two seem to be some of the only talking, surviving members of this life, and yet you two seem to be very different people and almost diametrically opposed. You two seem to agree sometimes, and you seem to argue and have problems and beef with each other. What is the story with you and Sammy the Bull, and how do you characterize him?
Okay. Right now, Sammy and I are friends. Yeah, we're friends. It wasn't always that way. We had the whole Patrick Bet-David, Mafia States of America sit down.
Right. Well, they brought you to a place.
They brought us to a place.
Put you head to head and got you guys to maybe flesh out everything you thought about each other or had been saying about each other for 10 or 20 years.
Correct.
Okay.
It was the first time that we met in that kind of a
Why
situation.
did you agree to do that?
Patrick was very convincing, he just wanted to make it happen. And Sammy agreed. Once Sammy agreed, I agreed, or I agreed and then Sammy agreed. I don't know how it came back, but we said, okay, we'll do it. And so he set it all up, Patrick did, in a location. And this is the first time we opened up with each other. Now, we have different ideologies. Remember this, Sammy came into that life, he was brought up on the street in a way, and he was immediately attracted to that lifestyle. He wanted to be a gangster. And that was his mentality, like a lot of guys. Me, it was different. My dad didn't want me to be a gangster. He wanted me to go to school, be a doctor. I was an athlete. He wanted to keep me out of the life. I didn't aspire to be that guy. I came into the life to help my dad. Once I got in, it became very important to me. But it wasn't my life's goal. It was Sammy's life's goal. So he looked at it differently. And I think it hurt him a lot when he had to leave that life. When I left, I wanted to leave. When Sammy left, it hurt him, the circumstances that he was under, because in his heart, he was still mafia. He's still mafia. He's still Cosa Nostra. that was one of the flashpoints. I said, no, you're not, Sammy, you're not. We're not mafia anymore. Oh, you're mafia till you die. No, we're not. You're not there anymore.
Because why? Because he walked away.
Yeah, he walked away. Whatever the circumstances were, he's out.
Right.
He can't go back in, nor can I. So we're not mafia anymore. Now, we may still have, things in our head that bring us back to that. So that was a major flashpoint with us. But when I got to understand him, I got to like him. I really did. And look, he loves his family. He's a good family man, loves his kids. He's still, I don't believe him and his wife are married anymore, but I met his wife and they're still respectful, that type of thing. And I know what he's trying to accomplish. And look, I get the mentality. We did some rough things, and you want to try to clean it up, Brian, you really do. And I think Sammy's very sincere about that. He's trying to he's 75 years old. He has some health issues every once in a while. He wants to leave a better legacy in his life. And he's doing that. He's working towards that goal. He and I are going to do some other things together. First, we thought we never would, but it looks like we will.
There was a lot of tension in the room when I watched you and him talk, because it feels like he's almost saying, I'm a real gangster, you're not a real gangster. You were doing the rackets, I was, doing the hits, and you're looking at Sammy in this way of, but I never said I was that guy. I was always this guy. But it was almost like your presence offended his sense of Cosa Nostra in some way.
Yeah.
Am I getting that vibe right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at one point he said to me, it wasn't fair because there was guys waiting 20 years, because during that time, from the 50s to the mid-70s, the books were closed, meaning they weren't making new guys, security measure, whatever. He said, Mike, there was guys waiting 20, 25 years that had to do a lot of work, and you jumped in front of all of them, right? I said, well, Sammy, let me explain something to you. I said, nepotism is huge in that life. Colombo brought his kids in. Persico brought his kids in. Gambino brought his family in. I said, that's part of the life. Why? Because you figure you bring your family in, they're going to stand up, right? My father deserved that. He had a lot of respect. He went away, kept his mouth shut, got framed for 50 years. So they owed him that if they felt that I was capable. So once my dad proposed me, I had to put in the time. 2.5 years, I had to do what I was told to do in order to get made. But he said, well, you jumped ahead of everybody. I said, well, what's the difference? I still had to do my thing. Those guys had to wait. They got unfortunate that the books were closed. Maybe they would have got made earlier. Doesn't mean they're more deserving than me, but he had a problem with that. I get it. It's okay. That's his way of thinking. But so that was a flashpoint. Another flashpoint, he wanted to bring out that, I was cooperating. And I said, look, Sammy, I never denied speaking with the government. I said, but I will stand on this until I die. I did not put anybody in prison. I knew what I was doing. Why did I talk to the government? Because I want them to know I'm out of the life. That's it, I'm done. Yeah, you want to talk about certain things, okay. But I didn't put anybody in prison. Now, you have a problem with that because you say I still quiet. It's up to you. I don't care. It doesn't matter at this point. What's the difference? But he, for some reason, it bothered him then. I don't think it bothers him anymore, but it bothered him then.